back to my another video. You are watching now Sci-Fi Stories HFY YouTube channel. Please subscribe, hit the bell icon for my latest videos on my YouTube channel. Like, share and subscribe. See you in the next video. Thank you. Bye.
The interspecies medical station Caduceus orbited a dying star at the edge of the Verity expanse, and on most days, it smelled like antiseptic and regret. Head physician Saravel, a Deikai with 4 arms and an exhausted expression, reviewed her morning patient manifest with the quiet dread of someone who already knew none of it would go according to plan. 19 beings across 11 species, ranging from a Grellian with a calcified third lung to a Trovan hatchling with mite fever. Standard enough for a frontier station. Then there was Bay 7. Bay 7 had been sealed for 11 days. Its occupant had arrived aboard a damaged cargo hauler, unconscious and bleeding from 3 different wound types: blunt trauma, energy burn, and something the scanners politely labeled cause undetermined. He had no identification tag, no translator chip, no emergency contact registered anywhere in the Galactic Health Registry. He was human. Saravel had treated humans before. Twice in her 30-year career. The first had been a straightforward case, a young woman with a fractured orbital bone, cheerful and loud and healed within 6 days. The second had been a researcher who'd accidentally ingested Verity spore dust. He had laughed at the burning sensation, called it spicy, and was discharged in 4 days. Both times, she had consulted the Interspecies Medical Codex, Section 7, Paragraph 12, which offered the following guidance on treating human patients. Administer standard sedation protocol. Do not allow full consciousness. Reassess every 72 hours. Note: humans in uncontrolled pain states have been observed to significantly exceed projected physical parameters. Exercise caution. The codex had been written 40 years ago, after a human sailor at a Trovenian port clinic had, while semiconscious and confused from fever, accidentally walked through a reinforced bulkhead door, not opened it, walked through it, while trying to find a bathroom. The sailor had apologized profusely afterward, apparently more embarrassed than injured. So, standard sedation protocol. Saravel had kept the human in Bay 7 under a steady infusion of Deikai-grade sedative, adjusted down to 40% potency to account for his alien biology. His vital signs were stable. Unusual. His heart rate and blood pressure ran significantly higher than she expected for a resting patient, but stable. The problem was the sedative. Her supply officer, a nervous young Trovan named Pell, found her in the corridor outside Bay 7 at 0600, clutching a supply manifest and looking like he wanted to be literally anywhere else. "Doctor," he said, "we have a situation." The resupply shuttle had been delayed. Pirates in the Caduceus corridor. Not unusual, not safe. The station's sedative stores were down to a single vial. Enough to keep Bay 7's occupant under for approximately 6 more hours. "And after that?" she asked, already knowing the answer. "He wakes up," Pell said. Saravel spent the first hour reviewing everything the medical scanners had compiled on her patient in Bay 7. His name, she had eventually determined from a partial ID signature embedded in his flight suit's emergency beacon, was Cale Marin. He was 34 years old. He had served in the human fleet, rank indeterminate, which usually meant special operations, and he had 3 prior medical records in the registry, all from different stations, all marked with the same advisory flag. Patient demonstrated atypical recovery timeline. See notes. She read the notes. At Station Vadorn, 6 years ago, a human male matching Cale Marin's biometrics had undergone emergency surgery for a perforated abdomen. Expected recovery time, 12 days minimum. Actual recovery time, 4 days. The attending physician had written, with evident bewilderment, patient began requesting solid food on day 2. Patient was ambulating unaided on day 3. Patient was found performing what he described as pull-ups on the bed frame on day 4. Discharged per his own request. At the Mirovan Clinic, 3 years ago, blunt force trauma, 2 fractured ribs, mild concussion. Expected recovery, 8 days. Actual recovery, 2 days. Note: patient refused additional sedation on day 2, stating he felt fine. Scans confirmed healing approximately 300% ahead of projected timeline. Unclear mechanism. At Outpost Thessaly, 18 months ago, energy weapon burn, 2nd degree, covering approximately 15% of his torso. Expected recovery, 10 days with skin regeneration therapy. Actual recovery, 5 days. Note, patient's tissue regeneration appears to be self-accelerating. We have no framework to explain this. Recommend further study. Patient declined further study. Saravel set down the datapad. Her current patient had 3 cracked ribs, a hairline skull fracture, 2nd-degree burns on his left arm, and the cause undetermined wound, which her scanners had eventually concluded was some kind of directed sonic impact, rare and brutal, that had essentially scrambled the soft tissue of his left shoulder. She had been treating him for 11 days. She pulled up his current scan. The ribs were fully healed. The skull fracture was gone. The burns were reduced to mild surface scarring. And the shoulder, the shattered, scrambled shoulder she had spent 6 hours microsurgically repairing on day 1, showed what could only be described as aggressive, almost angry reconstruction. The tissue had regrown. Thicker than before. Denser. He had been healing under sedation, unable to eat, barely hydrated by 4 for 11 days. She could not imagine what he would be capable of fully awake, ambulatory, and fed. She sent a message to Pell, prepare Bay 7 for a conscious patient. Remove all breakable equipment from reach. Bolt down the bed. Stock the room with food, human-compatible rations, maximum caloric density, as much as we have. And find me a translator that handles standard Galactic Common to English. At 11:42 station time, the drip ran dry. Saravel stood at the observation window of Bay 7 and watched. For 20 minutes, nothing happened. Then his fingers moved. Then his breathing shifted, from the long, shallow rhythm of sedation to something deeper, purposeful, like an engine turning over. His heart rate climbed on the monitor. Then climbed more. Then settled at a number that would have indicated severe distress in any other species and apparently indicated waking up in a human. His eyes opened. They were gray, she noted, and very clear for someone who had been unconscious for 11 days. He stared at the ceiling for a long moment. Then he turned his head and looked directly at the observation window, as if he had always known she was there. She pressed the intercom. "Mr. Marin," she said, carefully, in Galactic Common. The translator chirped the English equivalent into his room. "My name is Dr. Saravel. You are aboard Medical Station Caduceus. You were brought in 11 days ago with significant injuries. You are safe." The pause. He tested his limbs. Methodically, she noticed, not frantically. Right hand. Left hand. Right foot. Left foot. He reached up and touched the healed skin of his left arm where the burns had been. His expression was unreadable. 11 days, he said. His voice was rough with disuse. "Yes. My ship. Destroyed, I'm afraid. You were recovered from the wreckage by a passing hauler." Another pause. He sat up and she tensed, but he moved carefully, like a man taking inventory rather than a man trying to escape. He examined his shoulder. Rotated it. His eyebrows rose slightly. "You fixed this," he said. It wasn't quite a question. "I tried," Saravel said. "Your body did most of the work." For the first time, the corner of his mouth moved upward. "Yeah," he said. "It does that." He looked around the room. Found the tray of ration packs she'd had stacked near the bed. Looked back at the window. "Am I a prisoner?" "No." "Can I eat those?" "Yes. All of them if you like." He reached for the nearest pack with the focused intent of someone who had been running on empty for 11 days and knew it. He ate 3 in the time it took her to enter the bay. He didn't stop watching her the entire time, wary, but not hostile. Evaluating. "Your scans were interesting," she said, pulling up a stool. "I'll bet. I've treated 2 humans before you. Neither was quite," she searched for the word, "quite as efficient as you appear to be." Cale Marin finished his 4th ration pack. His eyes, she noted, had lost none of their clarity. If anything, with each passing minute he seemed more present, more solid, like a signal sharpening. The slouch of the newly awakened was already leaving his posture. "Special assignment," he said simply. "The fleet runs programs. Makes us a little harder to kill." He glanced at the door. "What's the situation out there? You've got to look like someone who has more problems than just me." Saravel blinked. She had been told humans were perceptive, but the speed of it still surprised her. She told him about the pirates. It had started 3 days ago. Arachnath Raider clan, for ship strong, had taken up position in the approach corridor and begun demanding medical tribute. Supplies, equipment, medications. They hadn't attacked directly. They were too smart for that. A medical station had protections, political shields, neutral status under interspecies law. But they had blockaded the resupply route and were slowly squeezing. Saravel had 41 patients, a crew of 12, and a security system designed to handle internal disturbances, not external military threats. She had been sending distress calls for 3 days. Response time from the nearest fleet presence, 72 hours minimum. Kale Marin listened to all of this. He had, by then, eaten 7 ration packs and was on his second container of water. His color had improved significantly. When she finished, he was quiet for a moment. "How many staff do you have who can move without patients depending on them in the next hour?" "Myself," she said. "Pell, my supply officer. 2 of my orderlies." "Your station layout, do you have a copy?" She hesitated. Then she handed him her data pad. He studied it for 4 minutes, eating an 8th ration pack while he did so. Then he handed it back and stood up. He was taller than she'd registered from the bed, broad through the shoulders, and the way he moved suggested that the 11 days of forced rest had done nothing to diminish him. If anything, he moved like a man who had been overwounded and was now carefully, deliberately unreeling. "I'm going to need my gear, whatever came off my suit. I'm going to need access to your external comm array. And I'm going to need whoever you have to follow instructions exactly." "Mr. Marin," she said carefully, "you were critically injured 11 days ago." He looked at her. "Doctor," he said not unkindly, "I know what I am. And right now, your station is being held hostage by 4 ships of pirates who have made the mistake of being stationary." He picked up a 9th ration pack. "Stationary is a problem I know how to solve." She didn't have a name for what followed, later, when she wrote it up in her medical log. She settled on unanticipated therapeutic outcome, which she felt covered the situation adequately without requiring her to explain that her patient, 18 hours out of an 11-day sedation, had coordinated a comm array spoofing operation to simulate an incoming fleet signature, personally spacewalked to disable the lead Raider's sensor array. "Just the sensors, no casualties. I'm not starting a war over a blockade," and then calmly negotiated the Arachnath commander's surrender over open channel while standing in her station's airlock eating his 11th ration pack. The Arachnath had not, as it turned out, been expecting that. No one had. The resupply shuttle arrived 40 hours later. Her sedative stores were replenished. Her patients were safe. 3 of her staff had asked her if Kale Marin could be considered a permanent staff addition. Pell had simply stared at him with the expression of someone whose understanding of the universe had been quietly, irrevocably revised. Saravel found him on the observation deck the night before his transport arrived, looking out at the dead star their station orbited, eating what she suspected was his 30th ration pack of the day. "Your discharge paperwork is ready," she said. "Appreciate it." She stood beside him for a moment. "The Codex says to keep humans sedated," she said. "I know. I'm beginning to think the Codex was written by people who were afraid of what happens when you don't." Kale Marin looked at her, and for a moment, something complicated moved behind those gray eyes, something that had seen too much and made peace with most of it. Then he smiled, and it was a real one this time, the kind that reached the eyes. "Honestly, Doc," he said. "So am I, sometimes." He finished the ration pack. He looked back at the star. "But afraid and useless aren't the same thing," he said quietly. "Never let anyone convince you they are." The transport came at dawn. She watched it go from the same observation window. Then she went back to work, and she did not update the Codex, and she did not add the advisory flag, and she left Bay 7 ready, properly stocked with ration packs, just in case.